New Delhi, watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. India and Ghana elevate bilateral ties to comprehensive partnership, decide to further strengthen cooperation in counter-terrorism efforts, set a target to double bilateral trade in 5 years. Prime Minister Narendra Modi conferred with the National Honour of Ghana, Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana. Prime Minister accepts award on behalf of 1.4 billion Indians. Iran ends cooperation with UN nuclear watchdog after Israel-US strikes. Washington calls it unacceptable. Also says Tehran's nuclear program degraded by up to 2 years due to strikes. US stock indices on fresh records following a trade deal with Vietnam. Oil prices jump after Iran suspends cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog. And Gill stunt put India on balance against England on day one of the Edgbaston Test. Head on to the details now. India and Ghana agree to elevate their relationship to a comprehensive partnership after Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with President of Ghana, Dr. John Dramani Mahama. The two leaders discussed global issues of mutual interest, including UN reforms. 4 MOUs in the fields of culture, standards, Ayurveda and traditional medicine and joint commission mechanism for engagement between foreign ministries were exchanged. Tapas Bhattacharya brings this report from Accra, the capital city of Ghana.
India and Ghana on Wednesday elevated their ties to the level of a comprehensive partnership after Prime Minister Narendra Modi held wide-ranging talks with President John Dramani Mahama.
आज राष्ट्रपति जी और मैंने हमारी द्विपक्षीय साझेदारी को कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव पार्टनरशिप का रूप देने का निर्णय लिया है। घाना के राष्ट्र निर्माण की इस यात्रा में भारत केवल एक सहयोगी नहीं बल्कि एक सहयात्री है।
Both sides held discussions on a wide range of issues from boosting bilateral trade and digital payment systems to maritime security and cyber security. In defense and security, the two nations pledged deeper collaboration guided by the principle of security through solidarity.
हमारा द्विपक्षीय व्यापार $3 बिलियन पार कर चुका है। भारतीय कंपनियों ने लगभग 900 प्रोजेक्ट्स में लगभग $2 बिलियन का निवेश किया है। आज हमने आपसी व्यापार को अगले 5 वर्षों में दोगुना करने का लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया है।
4 key agreements were signed, paving the way for cooperation in diverse areas, including culture and traditional medicine.
The two sides have engaged in significant discussions to deepen cooperation across various sectors of our economy, including agriculture, energy, manufacturing, infrastructural development, human resources, and health, amongst others. On the strength of the successful engagements, we have had a number of memoranda of understanding have been signed between Ghana and India.
On global issues, both leaders agreed that terrorism is the enemy of humanity and resolved to strengthen mutual cooperation to combat the menace.
हम एक मत है कि आतंकवाद मानवता का दुश्मन है। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हमारी लड़ाई में सहयोग के लिए हम गाना का आभार प्रकट करते हैं। इस संदर्भ में हमने काउंटर टेररिज्म में आपसी सहयोग को और मजबूत करने का निर्णय किया है। यूएन रिफॉर्म्स को लेकर हमारा दृष्टिकोण एक जैसा है। पश्चिम एशिया और यूरोप में चल रहे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को लेकर हम दोनों ने गहरी चिंता व्यक्त की है। हमारा मानना है कि यह युद्ध का युग नहीं है, डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी से ही समस्या का समाधान होना चाहिए.
Earlier upon his arrival, in a rare gesture, President John Mahama personally received him at the airport, a testament to the deep-rooted friendship between the two nations. Making the historic visit even more special, Prime Minister Modi was given a rousing welcome by the Indian community in Ghana.
With this landmark visit, India and Ghana have opened a new chapter of trust, technology and teamwork, setting the tone for a stronger global south. With camera person Rakesh and Murmukar Sharma, this is Tapush Bhattacharya signing off from Accra, Ghana.
And earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was conferred with the National Honour of Ghana, Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana by the President of Ghana in recognition of his distinguished statesmanship and influential global leadership. Accepting the award on behalf of 1.4 billion Indians, Prime Minister dedicated the honour to the aspirations of the youth of India, its cultural traditions and diversity, and to the historical ties between Ghana and India. Prime Minister thanked the people and government of Ghana for this special gesture.
राष्ट्रपति जी द्वारा गाना के राष्ट्रीय अवार्ड द ऑफिसर ऑफ द ऑर्डर ऑफ द स्टार ऑफ गाना से सम्मानित किया जाना मेरे लिए अत्यंत गर्व और सम्मान की बात है. मैं राष्ट्रपति महामा जी, गाना सरकार और गाना के लोगों का हृदय से आभार प्रकट करता हूं. मैं इस सम्मान को 140 करोड़ भारतीयों की ओर से विनम्रता के साथ स्वीकार करता हूं. यह सम्मान मैं हमारे युवाओं की आकांक्षाओं को, उनके उज्जवल भविष्य को, हमारी समृद्ध सांस्कृतिक विविधता और परंपराओं को और भारत गाना के ऐतिहासिक संबंधों को समर्पित करता हूं.
Well, on the day one, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also met with Ghana's Vice President Jane Nana Opoku-Agyemang. During his visit, the two leaders greeted each other warmly and held productive talks. Later, Secretary Economic Relations and Ministry of External Affairs Damu Ravi held a press briefing where he provided a detailed account of the Prime Minister's visit. He said that both leaders acknowledged the historic significance of the occasion as it marks the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Ghana in over 30 years.
Both the leaders acknowledge that this is a historic visit for the fact that this visit is taking place at the Prime Minister level from India after 30 years. President Mahama clearly acknowledged that it is a landmark visit that is very timely and very opportunistic at a time when Ghana is also looking for partnership with India to deepen economic engagement after its own economic rebound, recovery that it is facing, having gone through the IMF conditionalities and restructuring.
And today, on day two of his Ghana visit, the Prime Minister will interact with the Indian community and will later visit Nkrumah's memorial along with President Mahama. In the heart of Accra stands the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, which is a tribute to Ghana's founding father and its first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Clad in Italian marble and crowned with the Black Star of Unity, the monument stands as a powerful symbol of Ghana's journey to freedom and its enduring legacy. Later, Prime Minister Modi will visit the Black Star Square again with President Mahama. He will also address Ghana Parliament, after which he will leave for Port of Spain. With the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, India shares deep-rooted historical, cultural and people-to-people connect with the Caribbean country. He will meet the President and Prime Minister, who has recently assumed office for the second term. DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre sends us this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will arrive in Trinidad and Tobago on July 3rd for a landmark two-day official visit, his first ever to the Caribbean nation as Prime Minister and the first at this level since 1999. This visit, at the invitation of Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bharati, comes at a time when India is actively expanding its global footprint through partnerships rooted in culture, commerce, and cooperation. With over 40% of Trinidad and Tobago's population being of Indian descent, the emotional and cultural resonance of this visit is immense. The Indian diaspora, some tracing their roots back 5 generations, continues to play a vital role in the country's social and economic fabric. Trinidad and Tobago is also home to a growing number of first-generation Indian entrepreneurs, many of whom see this visit as a chance to boost trade and investment between the two nations.
Prime Minister Modi, I think, is one of the more admired leaders in the world. I think we as Indians are very happy with the progress that we see India making. The people of Trinidad, the Indian people in Trinidad, have always identified very closely with their Indian culture. It's going to strengthen the ties, I think, and I think people are going to identify with it, and I think it will probably push it even further.
The country is very happy to have a visit like him, such a high-profile visit, and it's something that I think a lot of bilateral talks can happen and a lot of trade that can happen for this country, and it could benefit a lot for this country as well. And not only for Trinidad, Tobago, but for the rest of the Caribbean islands as well. And it'll be something that it's a good thing.
Ahead of the visit, the Indian High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago says the mood in the country is one of excitement and pride.
Visit of Prime Minister Modi ji has been long awaited, as I said. All along in the country, among people, among government, there is a great excitement. They have actually announced a holiday after certain hours on that day. So everyone is looking forward to this.
During his stay, Prime Minister Modi is expected to hold high-level talks with both President Christine Carla Kangalu and Prime Minister Prasad Bharati. He will also address a special joint session of Parliament, underscoring the importance of this partnership rooted in shared democratic values and historic ties.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Trinidad and Tobago is not just a diplomatic event, it's also a celebration of a people that came to this land 180 years back as indentured labourers and through resilience, strength and endurance have shaped their destiny to become entrepreneurs, policymakers and leaders of this country. With camera person Mohit Uike at Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
Well, cricket has served as a soft power bridge between India and the Caribbean nations. The world still remembers Sunil Gavaskar's explosive century and double century on the Queen's Park Oval pitch in Port of Spain, the capital of Trinidad and Tobago, in 1971, which laid the foundation of India's first ever Test series victory against West Indies. As Prime Minister Modi visits Trinidad and Tobago, sports is one aspect of the ties between both the countries that will take centre stage. DD India's Akshay Dongre reports from the Queen's Park Oval Stadium in Trinidad.
Trinidad and Tobago and India have a lot of historic connections from diaspora to sports, culture and tradition. But one thing, if it stands out when it comes to the relations between Trinidad and Tobago and India, it is sports and especially cricket. And to show you how significant the cultural ties, the sports ties are between the two countries, and it goes back way into history, we are at a very special stadium. This is the Queen's Park Oval Stadium where we are standing right now, and this is the historic stadium from where in 1971 Sunil Gavaskar made his historic 220 runs, and that score also led to India's victory, and that was and is still the highest runs that have been scored on this ground. Sunil Gavaskar also scored a century in 1971 Test series, and then once again in 1976. And then there have been several other Indian cricketers who have scored centuries and several runs here, taken a lot of wickets that have ensured India's victory. There have been a lot of competition between West Indies and India, and especially here in Port of Spain, the capital of Trinidad and Tobago. And this is that very pitch from where Sunil Gavaskar played that cricket match and scored that historic 220 runs. The ties between the two countries is quite deep when it comes to the diaspora, when it comes to food, language, and especially when we talk about cricket. Both the countries have equal amount of love when it comes to the gentleman's game. In today's time, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes to Trinidad and Tobago, sports is also one aspect of the ties between the two countries that will take a center stage. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been promoting sports ties with several countries, especially the friendly countries with whom we have already played several games, not just cricket but other games as well. And as India diversifies its own sports teams in different sports, one thing that takes the center stage in this visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi that is also historic can be sports. With camera person Mohit Oiki, I'm Akshay Dongre, DD India.
And still to come, DD India News Now. Stay with us as we get you the details of External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jayashankar's engagements in the US. Shri Amarnath Ji Yatra begins with offering a first prayer at the cave today. Amid tight security, thousands trek to Holy Cave in South Kashmir. And world witness extreme weather and a changing climate. Greek firefighters battle blaze while heavy rainfall is expected in central India as monsoon advances.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khuranan. Moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jayashankar, who is in Washington, D.C. for the Quad Foreign Ministers meet, met FBI Director Kash Patel on the sidelines of the summit. The leaders appreciated the strong cooperation in countering organized crime, drug trafficking and terrorism. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jayashankar also met U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard on the sidelines of the meeting in Washington, D.C. Both the leaders exchanged their views on the global situation and the bilateral cooperation between the two countries. Addressing the press in Washington, Dr. Jayashankar said that the Quad ministers unanimously agreed on the objective of strengthening strategic stability in the Indo-Pacific region.
Agreed strongly that our goal in the Quad was to strengthen strategic stability in the Indo-Pacific. And this meeting, the discussions were largely devoted to enhancing delivery on various initiatives and projects. As is the practice on such occasions, we had a very open, very freewheeling discussion on regional issues of the Indo-Pacific. A lot of that was a granular analysis of different situations, different issues of the Indo-Pacific itself. But again, in the light of recent developments, it is natural that we also spend some time discussing the Israel-Iran conflict, also what the US had done in Iran.
Well, India on Wednesday voiced a deep concern over the abduction of 3 of its nationals in Mali, a country grappling with a fresh wave of terrorist attacks. The Ministry of External Affairs said the Indian workers employed at the diamond cement factory in Kayes, Republic of Mali, were taken hostage during a coordinated armed assault on the factory premises on July 1st. A day after the incident, India formally called upon the Mali government to take all necessary measures to ensure the safe and expeditious release. The MEA in a statement said that the Government of India unequivocally condemns this deplorable act of violence and calls upon the Government of the Republic of Mali to take all necessary measures. Senior officials of the ministry are closely monitoring the evolving situation and remain engaged at various levels to facilitate safe and early release of Indian nationals. The ministry advises all Indian citizens currently residing in Mali to exercise utmost caution, remain vigilant and stay in close contact with the Embassy of India in Bamako for regular updates and necessary assistance. Well, the monsoon session of India's Parliament will commence from 21st July and conclude on August 21st. Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs Kiran Rijiju on Wednesday said the President of India approved the government's proposal for convening the monsoon session. He added that in view of the Independence Day celebrations, there will be no sitting on the 13th and 14th of August. This monsoon session will be the first since Operation Sindoor, and opposition parties are expected to raise several issues, including a demand for a special discussion on the Pahalgam terror attack. And the Sri Amarnath Ji Yatra, pilgrimage to the Amarnath Cave Shrine in Jammu and Kashmir, began with offering of first prayer at the cave today. The 38-day-long Yatra, which will culminate on August 9th, is being conducted through the Baltal and Pahalgam routes. The Jammu-Srinagar highway is a key route for the thousands of pilgrims heading to the shrine. Around 80,000 soldiers of Indian Army, CRPF, BSF, SSB, CISF, ITBP and Jammu and Kashmir Police have been deployed for the security of Amarnath pilgrims. The Yatra sees lakhs of devotees trek through the Himalayan terrain to pay obeisance at the Holy Cave Shrine in Anantnag district of South Kashmir. And Kashmir Zone Police has issued advisory for Yatris of Sri Amarnath Ji Yatra. All the pilgrims are advised to travel only in designated convoys originating from Bhagwati Nagar, Batal and Nanvan base camps. The Yatris arriving long before the scheduled date are advised to arrive reasonably prior to their day of Yatra. And moving on, the 8th edition of the Indo-French Joint Military Exercise Shakti 8 culminated at Camp Larcaz La Cavalerie in France with a formal closing ceremony. The exercise marked the successful completion of an intensive training engagement aimed at enhancing interoperability, mutual trust and tactical coordination between the Indian and the French armies. Over the course of the exercise, the Indian contingent, comprising 90 personnel primarily from the Jammu and Kashmir Rifles Battalion and the troops from the French Army, participated in a series of mission-oriented drills tailored to sub-conventional operations. The engagement included combat shooting, urban warfare training, obstacle crossings, electronic warfare integration and counter unmanned aerial system operations. Well, as the monsoon continues its journey across the country, the Indian Meteorological Department on Wednesday predicted light to heavy rainfall in Delhi and several other regions. For east and central India, IMD predicted isolated heavy rainfall over Madhya Pradesh, Vidarbha, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Bihar, West Bengal, Sikkim, Jharkhand in the coming days. As far as northwest India is concerned, it is likely to witness isolated heavy rainfall over Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, East Rajasthan, Haryana, Chandigarh, East Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, West Uttar Pradesh, West Rajasthan and Jammu until 8th of July. Also, northeastern India would witness light to moderate rainfall at most places, accompanied by thunderstorm plus isolated extremely heavy falls over Meghalaya on 5th or 6th July. South Peninsula India would also be likely to witness isolated heavy rainfall over coastal Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala and Mahe, Karnataka till 8th of July. Meanwhile, Europe also continues to grapple with a deadly heat wave that has shattered temperature records across the continent, triggering widespread health warnings. Wildfires and severe disruptions to daily life. Red alerts were issued in 18 Italian cities, including Milan, as a severe heat wave gripped Europe, triggering widespread health alerts. Take a look. Europe is the world's fastest warming continent, heating up at twice the global average, according to the EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service, with extreme heat waves starting earlier in the year and persisting for longer. The effect can be seen all across the continent. Wildfires are having a devastating impact on Greece and Turkey. Greek firefighters continue to battle wildfires in Crete that has threatened homes, burnt forest land, and forced the evacuation of residents and tourists. Wildfires in the Turkish resort town of Kesme continue to rage on Wednesday. Aerials filmed from planes and helicopters battling wildfires showed flames engulfing residential areas as smoke rose above. France continues to reel under intense heat wave. The temperatures in Paris were expected to reach 33 degrees Celsius, with a heat wave warning still in effect across parts of France. The National Weather Agency reported that the heat wave affecting France and other parts of Europe was expected to ease, with cooler temperatures forecast for Thursday. Germany marked its hottest day of the year on Wednesday, with temperatures of up to 37 degrees Celsius. Animals at zoo were given frozen treats and cold showers to help them cope with the heat. Scorching temperatures persisted in Milan, where tourists sought relief from the heat wave by gathering in the shade of the Duomo Cathedral. As high temperatures hit the city, Paris-Milan rail service remained disrupted. In Madrid, the temperatures were expected to reach 39 degrees Celsius during the day. Bureau Report, DD India. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Trump's one big beautiful bill faces tight vote in US House. In an unprecedented move, Supreme Court in Costa Rica directs President Rodrigo Chaves be stripped of the immunity from prosecution to be tried for corruption. And maritime tragedy in Indonesia, ferry sinks near Bali.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. India and Ghana elevate bilateral ties to comprehensive partnership, decide to further strengthen cooperation in counter-terrorism efforts, set a target to double bilateral trade in 5 years. Prime Minister Narendra Modi conferred with the National Honour of Ghana, Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana. Prime Minister accepts award on behalf of 1.4 billion Indians. Iran ends cooperation with UN nuclear watchdog after Israel, US strikes. Washington calls it unacceptable. Also says Tehran's nuclear program degraded by up to 2 years due to strikes. US stock indices on fresh records following a trade deal with Vietnam. Oil prices jump after Iran suspends cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog. And Shubman Gill's stunt put India on balance against England on day one of the Edgbaston Test. And big news just coming in. All Pakistani social media handles will continue to be blocked in India. According to the government sources, the order has been issued to block all social media handles run by Pakistan, including Facebook, X, YouTube and Instagram. Earlier, on 8th of May, the Indian government had issued a formal advisory to all OTT platforms and digital streaming services, instructing them to immediately remove any web series, films, music, podcast or other content that originates from Pakistan. Well, the advisory, framed under the IT Rules 2021, had cited national security concerns and aims to prevent the dissemination of content deemed harmful to India's sovereignty or public order. Well, the series of decisions were taken following April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack that led to the killing of 26 people, including one Nepalese citizen, and injuries to a number of others. Well, Amritpal Singh joins us with more on the phone line for this. Well, Amrit, give us the details about the whole thing.
The details are that what had happened was that the ban that the government had imposed on the 8th of May, which you just spoke about, citing national security concerns under IT Rules 2021, continues to be in effect. The government sources from the Ministry of Electronics and IT have made it clear that that ban continues. This is on all social media platforms, OTT platforms, podcasts, Insta, Facebook, handles originating from Pakistan. Some social media handles got accessible for a little time in India, Lipakshi, but the government has made it clear that
All right, Amrit. Thank you so much for those details. And moving on, Iran officially suspended its cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog on Wednesday. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian put into effect on Wednesday a law passed by Parliament last week to suspend cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog. The law aims to ensure full support for the inherent rights of the Islamic Republic of Iran under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, with a particular focus on uranium enrichment. The law also stipulates that any future inspection of Iran's nuclear sites by the IAEA needs approval by Tehran's Supreme National Security Council. Iran has accused the IAEA of siding with Western countries and providing a justification for Israel's airstrikes, which began a day after the UN agency's board voted to declare Iran in violation of obligations under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And the United States has slammed Iran for suspending cooperation with IAEA. State Department spokesman Tammy Bruce told a regular briefing this was unacceptable and Iran must cooperate fully with the UN agency without further delay.
It is, we'll use the word unacceptable, that Iran chose to suspend cooperation with the IAEA at a time when it has a window of opportunity to reverse course and choose a path of peace and prosperity. Iran must cooperate fully without further delay.
And the United Nations has expressed concern over Iran's decision to suspend cooperation with IAEA. During a daily briefing, the spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the Iranian decision was obviously concerning. The UN nuclear watchdog, meanwhile, stated that it is aware of the reports, but the IAEA is awaiting further official information from Iran. Meanwhile, the Pentagon said on Wednesday that U.S. intelligence assessments indicated that their strikes on Iran's nuclear sites set the country's atomic program back by up to 2 years.
That we have degraded their program by 1 to 2 years, at least intel assessments inside the department assess that, and I think their intelligence shares that conclusion. I think we're thinking probably closer to 2 years, like degraded their program by 2 years.
Meanwhile, oil prices jumped over 3% after Iranian president approved a law suspending cooperation with the UN's nuclear watchdog. US crude jumped 3.06% to settle at $67.45 a barrel, and Brent settled at $69.11 per barrel, up by 2.98% as analysts cited a revived chance of fighting between Iran and Israel. Oil prices also rose on Wednesday as traders considered expectations of a supply increase from major producers next month. The OPEC Plus group is scheduled to meet on Sunday, and the market is waiting to see if there will be another hike in August, similar to those agreed for May, June and July. An Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said on Wednesday that his country was serious about reaching a deal with Hamas to end the conflict in Gaza and return the hostages held there to Israel. US President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that Israel had accepted the conditions needed to finalize a 60-day ceasefire with Hamas after what he called a long and productive meeting of his representatives with Israeli officials. Well, at a press conference in the Estonian capital, Tallinn, Saar said Israel is serious to reach a hostage deal and a ceasefire. Saar added that the end of the Gaza war depends on Hamas laying down its arms and releasing the remaining hostages. He spoke after holding talks with Estonia's Foreign Minister Magnus Šaskana.
Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. It is Europe's strategic partner in the region, the only ally which shares the same values and challenges. Hamas still holds 50 of our hostages in crew captivity. The war can end tomorrow if it releases them and lays down its arms. We are serious in our will to reach a hostage deal and a ceasefire.
And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Wednesday that his country was holding technical-level discussions with the U.S. regarding the delivery of defense aid and air defense components in particular. A decision by Pentagon to halt some shipments of critical weapons to Ukraine prompted warnings by Kyiv that the move would weaken its ability to defend against intensifying airstrikes and battlefield advances. Ukraine said it had called in the acting U.S. envoy to Kyiv to underline the importance of military aid from Washington continuing and cautioned that any cutoff would embolden Russia in its war on Ukraine. The Defense Ministry said it had not been officially notified of any halt in U.S. shipments and was seeking clarity from its American counterparts. Well, voting is underway in the U.S. House of Representatives on President Trump's signature piece of legislation, a policy and budget document informally called the One Big Beautiful Bill. Ahead of the vote on Trump's massive tax cut and spending bill, the U.S. president affirmed a unity among the Republicans for the good of America as he promised the biggest tax cuts in history. Earlier, Trump held a meeting on Wednesday at the White House with the Freedom Caucus, a group of conservative Republican members in the U.S. House of Representatives known for their hardline views on lower taxes, and gave many assurances to them. Trump's big, beautiful bill was first passed by the House in May, then made it through the Senate on Tuesday with just one vote after Vice President J.D. Vance broke the tie-breaking 50-50 vote. Now the bill has gone back to the House of Representatives so that the lawmakers can approve the changes made by the Senate. Well, Trump has set July 4th as the deadline for lawmakers to present him with a final version of the bill that can be signed into law. And in Indonesia, 4 people died, 38 were missing and 23 survived after a ferry carrying 65 people sank near the island of Bali. The boat sank almost half an hour after leaving East Java province's Banyuwangi port on its way to Bali late on Wednesday. Country's search and rescue agency said the search was hampered by strong currents and winds. Ferries are a common mode of transport in Indonesia, an archipelago of more than 17,000 islands, and accidents are common as lax safety standards often allow vessels to be overloaded without adequate life-saving equipment. A small ferry capsized in 2023 near Indonesia's Sulawesi island, killing at least 15 people. And with the update just coming in, there are 30 people still missing in the boat capsize. And moving on, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung addressed a news conference on Thursday to mark his first 30 days in office, highlighting government's active role in executing a bold fiscal policy. Lee, who was elected on June 3rd in a snap election, said economic recovery that would improve the lives of people has been his top priority. Lee's administration has proposed $14.7 billion of extra government spending to support sluggish domestic demand. Parliament, controlled by his Democratic Party, is expected to vote on the budget bill soon. The president also said in his opening remarks he was doing his best to achieve a mutually beneficial and sustainable outcome from trade negotiations with the United States. South Korea is hoping to contain the impact of the threatened punishing U.S. tariffs that could weigh on an export-reliant economy with major semiconductor, auto and steel industries. Lee also said South Korea must improve relations with North Korea based on a secure U.S.-South Korea alliance and build on ties with Russia and China. And Thailand's former Defence Minister Phumtham Vichayachai is set to be appointed acting Prime Minister on Thursday, capping a colourful career for the political heavyweight once nicknamed Big Comrade. The 71-year-old has successfully transitioned into the limelight from a business role in the empire of Thaksin Shinawatra, the founding force of a dynasty which has dominated Thai politics for decades. Phumtham has held the defence and commerce portfolios and had a previous spell as acting Prime Minister after a crisis engulfed the top office last year. On Thursday, he is due to be sworn in as Deputy Prime Minister and Interim Minister, making him acting Premier again after Thaksin's daughter, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, was suspended from her role. And music mogul Sean Diddy Combs was found not guilty of racketeering and sex trafficking, but convicted on 2 federal prostitution charges after a marathon trial in New York. Combs was acquitted of racketeering and sex trafficking charges, but a federal jury convicted him on 2 lesser counts of transporting women across state lines for prostitution. He now faces up to 20 years in prison and has been denied bail ahead of sentencing. The trial lasted 7 weeks and featured disturbing testimony from former partners, including singer Cassandra Ventura and a woman identified only as Dane. Both testified about abuse, threats, and coercive sex, saying they were forced into sex marathons with hired men, often directed and filmed by Combs. His lawyers argued the encounters were consensual, though they admitted to a pattern of domestic violence. The jury ultimately agreed that while Combs was abusive, the evidence didn't meet the legal threshold for sex trafficking. Combs' partial victory was overshadowed by the judge's refusal to grant bail. Judge Arun Subramaniam cited Combs' history of domestic violence and said the music mogul posed a continued threat to his victims. Since his arrest in September 2024, Combs has been held at a Brooklyn detention facility. He will remain there until sentencing, now set for October 3rd, though the defense has asked to expedite the process. And still to come on DD India News Hour. US President Donald Trump again comes down heavily on Fed Chair Jerome Powell, warns him to resign immediately. In Wimbledon, top seed Alcaraz, Sabalenka and Raducanu reach 3rd round. Paolini crashes out. And in the Women Euro 2025 Championship, Norway beat Switzerland 2-1 in the opening game.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. On to some business news now. US President Donald Trump on Wednesday reiterated his call for Federal Reserve Jerome Powell to resign, saying the central bank leader should do so immediately. Powell was nominated by Trump to lead the Fed during his first administration. Joe Biden, who succeeded Trump as president, nominated him for a second term. His tenure as Fed chair is set to end May 2026. While on Tuesday, Powell said the U.S. Federal Reserve must be completely non-political. Also, Donald Trump has announced another trade deal, this time with Vietnam, under which United States will place a lower than promised 20% tariff on many Vietnamese exports. Vietnamese goods would face a 20% tariff, and transshipments from third countries through Vietnam will face a 40% levy. Vietnam could import U.S. products with a 0% tariff, though it was not clear whether the 20% tariff would come on top of the already in effect 10% tariff on goods from Vietnam, or whether 20% would be the new level. Meanwhile, U.S. markets were lifted by gains in tech stocks and news of a trade agreement between the U.S. and Vietnam that helped ease concerns about an extended trade war. According to preliminary data, the S&P 500 gained 29.28 points to end at 6,227 points, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 190.24 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 8.70 points.
If the administration does not extend the July 9th deadline and we don't have a slew of trade agreements between now and then, I think the market will become very nervous very quickly. If the administration, as I believe they might, does extend the deadline, it will be a sigh of relief, but I don't necessarily believe it will be a sharp rally because we still have to wait for these trade agreements to be codified.
Well, more than a dozen countries are actively negotiating with the Trump administration to avoid a steep spike in tariffs on their exports. Trade deals reached earlier with Britain and China were limited in scope. Talks with Japan, the United States' sixth largest trading partner and closest ally in Asia, appear to hit roadblocks. Britain accepted a 10% U.S. tariff on many goods, including autos, in exchange for special access for aircraft engines and British beef. China and the United States also came to a truce in a tit-for-tat tariff battle. Beijing restored American access to some rare earth minerals. China and the U.S. left most of their disagreements to later negotiations. Well, Nepal is accelerating construction of major hydropower projects including Karnali, Upper Karnali, Bheri and Jagadula. The Buddhi Gandaki project will advance as a public-private partnership. Environmental assessments are underway for the Kali Gandaki Thinnaur diversion project following a Supreme Court directive. Well, Nepal has become a net electricity exporter, boosting revenue from power sales to India. A new tripartite agreement with India and Bangladesh allows a seasonal electricity trade during monsoon months. Energy Minister Deepak Khadka said these projects are key to Nepal's energy strategy and regional development, benefiting Sudar Pashchim and Karnali provinces. Well, next fiscal year, electricity purchases will follow a take-and-pay model. Indian PSUs, SJVN and NHPC are partnering on hydropower projects in Nepal on the Seti, Arun and Karnali rivers, strengthening cross-border cooperation. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. Captain Shubman Gill led from the front as he scored his second century of the series to help India finish strongly at the end of day one of the second test against England at Edgbaston. Put into bat first, India posted 310 for 5 at stumps with Gill and Ravindra Jadeja forging a crucial 99-run stand to steady the innings following a mini collapse post-tea. Gill remained unbeaten on 114 while Jadeja is on 41 runs. Earlier, India's opening batter Yashasvi Jaiswal fell short of his second century of the series, getting dismissed on 87. While other opener KL Rahul fell cheaply while Karun Nair scored 31 while Rishabh Pant contributed with 25 runs. And Australia announced its playing 11 for the second test against West Indies, set to take place in Grenada from Thursday. Steve Smith returns to the fold since he fractured his finger during the World Test Championship final against South Africa earlier this month. The 36-year-old is replacing Josh Inglis in the second match of the series. Marnus Labuschagne was dropped following dismal performances, while the rest of the WTC final lineup remained unchanged, with Pat Cummins leading the side against Roston Chasers West Indies. And some updates from Wimbledon 2025. A record-breaking number of top seeds crashed out in the first round, but Carlos Alcaraz and women world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka avoided second-round shocks on centre court. Defending champion Alcaraz needed 2 hours and 17 minutes to subdue world number 733 Tawit to reach third round. The second seed hopes to become the 5th man in the Open era to win at least 3 consecutive Wimbledon titles after John Borg, Pete Sampras, Roger Federer and 7-time champion Novak Djokovic. In women's single, top seed Aryna Sabalenka dismantled Czech Mary Bozakova 7-6, 6-4 to advance to the third round on Wednesday. Madison Keys eased past Olga Danilovic 6-4, 6-2 to reach the Wimbledon third round. The Australian Open champion is on the hunt for further Grand Slam glory at the All England club and could become the first woman since the Grand Serena Williams to win those 2 majors in the same season. And Norway defeated Switzerland 2-1 during the opening game of the Women Euro 2025 Championship on Thursday. Switzerland had plenty of opportunities to grab what would have been a famous victory, but the Norwegians dug deep to snatch a narrow win. Norway's victory was their third against Switzerland in 2025. They had already overcome the same opponents by 2-1 and 1-0 scorelines in the Nations League earlier this year. And European champions Paris Saint-Germain trained in the Georgia sun on Wednesday as they prepare for their biggest game of the Club World Cup thus far. The French champions will meet the German champion Bayern Munich in quarter-finals, the first team PSG faces, who are also considered one of the favourites to win the tournament. The teams are set to face off on Saturday at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.